Hello and welcome back to the Michigan State University Wealth Management Association podcast. This week, we have Christy and Jacqueline joining us as they share about their experience being women in the financial industry and how to overcome obstacles that came in their path. We hope you enjoy.
Thank you both for taking the time to talk with me today, and I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about some of these questions that I prepared. So, first question. You both have very different backgrounds. Can each of you share a moment when in your career the decision clicked and you knew that you were on the right path?
All right, I guess I'll jump in first. I started as a high school intern, and I was actually working at the private bank. And honestly, I thought I was going to go to Hollywood and be the next Oprah Winfrey because I literally was like on the path to go to UCLA. And, for me, it was that internship that truly changed my life. I knew my future was really going to be learning more about money, about finance. And so for me, it was probably at the age of 16 that I knew I was on the right path.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
So I spent 16 and a half years in the U.S. Coast Guard, spent the first 2 years chasing drug runners in the Caribbean, and then transitioned into my career with regards to crisis management. So just like the Baltimore Bridge collapse, my mentees manage that. So anytime something happens that is catastrophic, then we're always waiting for the next emergency, responding to Hurricane Katrina. And so for me, I've had 20 jobs before I was 20. Right? Just like a general hustler is what I call myself. But I like the Coast Guard because there is something new every day. Like you couldn't predict what was going to happen because we're emergency managers. So to have my personality to always want to do something and do something that is of high caliber, but is also of high stress. That was when it was the right thing for me. We did something new every day. It wasn't repeated.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I think both of you could say a little bit about how this career is very different. Every day is very different. Every person's financial health or, it's all very different. And I do appreciate that. I think I work the same way where I'm like puzzles and I like figuring things out. And I love that it's different every day. Anyways, okay, so my next question is, as women leaders in financial services, what are one challenge early in your career that you had to overcome, and what did you learn from it?
I'll jump in. I remember when I first became a manager, a manager of people. That was definitely a challenge out the gate because I was young. I was actually 24 when I took my first assignment, managing $1 billion team. And many of the people on my team, as you can imagine, were men. I'm in the financial services industry, and I was managing a group of stockbrokers back in that day. And, when I was announced that I was going to be the manager, I would say 90% of them, walked out the room because they just thought it was a joke. And so I had to overcome that. I had to really build my confidence. I had to really know how to navigate and honestly, how to truly collaborate with them. It wasn't really about, the tension of it. It was like, okay, let me learn how I, a 24-year-old young Black woman in financial services, can get the buy-in of these older, white males that are in my industry and how we're going to ultimately collaborate. Because I knew, hey, look, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I was young. I had a whole career ahead of me. So they weren't going to run me away, but it was really about taking that moment and taking that challenge and really growing from that challenge as a young senior leader at the time.
Yeah. I love the mindset of you not running away from that.
No, they had to get used to me. So here I am 30 years later. I'm still here, guys.
Yeah, perfect.
So since we're talking about jobs, I'll dip back into my Coast Guard days because the financial services and what we're working on today is current for me. But, to show up young Black woman officer, when I left the Coast Guard, there were 50 Black female officers out of 47,000 people. So 50 was our high number. So when I joined, it was about 20 of us. So my demographic was 0.1%. And so I had to learn early on, and some people hadn't been exposed to Black women or Black women who were leaders. So it's first like, all right, how can I start to build trust? how can I build trust, and how can we have a civil conversation without, like Jack just talked about, they get up and they leave. It's like, no, how can we build trust and learn how to respect each other, as opposed to disrespect because you're just not aware of, how I want to be talked to or how I want to be treated. Like, we're human just like everybody else. So
Right.
I would say that was interesting in the foundation of my career, where I would just straight up have the conversations like, no, I'm here. I am a leader, even though I'm 24 years old, and I may be your boss, but I also respect your opinion. Like, what do you have? I'm not so egotistical by this position to not know that you have 20 years experience. What can I learn from you? What can I gain from you? And how can we work together where I can use my position, even though I don't know anything, right? But I can use my position to be able to protect you and make certain decisions, because being in a leadership position, you're going to be in rooms that they're not in. So how can we work together to be able to move the needle forward with what we both want to work on, as opposed to, tearing each other down? So that was, I would say, was like the biggest thing. And then carrying that as I continued in my in my career, and even getting to the senior levels, and now having the conversations with the junior guys who work for me, who were in that position, teaching them the same things. It's like, this is how you build trusted relationships with people who are 20 to 30 years your senior, and you work together collaboratively, as opposed to competing.
Right. No, this is just a follow-up question. How did both of you become young leaders? Like, you were both said, like, very young, you started off in leadership, not started off, but became leaders at very young ages. I'm curious as how that happened.
Well, for me, I was a financial advisor in a at a major company in downtown Chicago, but I was placed in a location that was very challenging. I would say on one side of the street you had the housing projects, literally the Cabrini Green projects from back in the day. If people remember Candyman or Good Times, like those were the housing projects for low to moderate income folks. And then literally on the other side of the street from my location were multi-million-dollar mansions. As a matter of fact, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, his house was like on the other side. So it was a very interesting dividing line of the have and have-nots, as you can imagine. So this little branch sort of sat right in the middle. And when I was appointed to that location, it was like, Jack, this is a nightmare, go for it. And, and as Christy mentioned, one of the things I love about my industry, is it, like she said, it changes every day. I love a challenge. And the reality was, that challenge allowed us to take a branch that was failing. And within 18 months, we were able to bring in over $40 million worth of business in 18 months. So then that obviously got the attention of senior leaders. They were like, this branch has struggled for many, many years up until recently. And what did you do? And I was like, you work with people. Like Christy said, we're in we're in the business of human beings, right? At the end of the day, that's the name of the business. And I said, once we actually sat down and talked to the staff, once I had a chance to talk to the clients and really got to know what their dreams were, what their desires were. It allowed us to build those relationships that then said, you know what? Hey, I want my money with you. And so in 18 months, we were able to really shift that story around. And here I was, literally 24 years old, getting the attention now of senior leaders to say, well, if you did it there, we want to take you on the road, right? We have some other problems, for you to solve. And so that's really what allowed me to get my sort of stake in the ground. I was a leader since I, popped out of my mom's belly. I always was the one that was, little Jackie at 5 years old was always the one at the head of the church, like, oh, I'm going to start the lemonade stands, or I'm going to start the little groups. And so leadership was always inside of me. So it was just a matter of now being able to pull that out in a way where I was able to solve a really big problem, allow this company to make a lot of money, and then blueprint that and duplicate that across other divisions and regions of the firm.
Yeah. Awesome. And
for me, right quick, it was the Coast Guard was recruiting minority officers. As I told you, it was 20 when I joined. And so I joined this program while I was actually in college, and went to boot camp, and then ended up going back to school, and then ended up going to Officer Candidate school after that. And so, it's interesting because you'll have people that are like, you don't belong here. They'll say it in your face, Lacey, Eloise, like they'll say it right in your face. Like, you don't belong here because you're a woman, or you won't make it because you're Black. And so one of the things that I know that a lot of women get caught up in is that we don't understand how to manage that feedback / criticism, and we start to prove ourselves very early on and wanted to prove that we belong. And so you can have 10, 15 years in the game and you never really feel like you belong, because now we're always waiting for that gold star. Like, we're waiting for them to validate us as opposed to validating ourselves. And so that was just like the short of it, of when you're coming in, is a challenge that a lot of women experience. But then if you don't stop long enough or reflect long enough, you can have the degrees and the money and the cars and the position, but you'll never feel like you made it, because you're fighting that conversation that, you know, you had early on, that you won't make it. And why are you here?
Very awesome. Okay, back to my actual questions. Many of our listeners are college women thinking about going into wealth management or finance. What is one thing that they should do starting this semester to set them out or themselves up for strong first jobs?
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, mentors are key. I would definitely say, to attach to a really strong mentor that, that can really help them, sort of shape the direction that they want to go. I think for me, I was very, very blessed to have some amazing mentors, when I was going through my process of being in this industry. So, what that may look like, again, people like Christy and I, we're all over the place. We're super busy. So it may not necessarily be, hey, can you mentor me, Jackie? Or can you mentor me, Christy? It might be, what? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a book? What are some books that you recommend, Jack, that I can read? So mentorship comes in all forms or facets, but I would say for anyone looking to be very successful in financial services, mentorship is key, because then that mentorship, if done right, it opens up doors and gives you access, right? Because I can have a mentor, but if my mentor loves me, they're going to open up doors for me. They're going to get me interviews. They're going to put that sponsorship, I like to say, sponsorship equity on me. So, that way, there's opportunities there, for, you mentioned, to get a job, right? And so to me, it's mentorship. It's taking time to really understand the business. This is a very complex business. And so I don't take that part lightly. And so people like Christy and I, we have programs like the Wealth Management Accelerator, which we recently launched, that is a platform to not only help educate people on the world of wealth and the world of finance, but it's also an ecosystem of other professionals that you can be around, where you're in this like brain trust, and you got a think tank of other individuals that you can learn from. So I can't stress mentorship enough. I can't stress access enough. And then, in the words I like to say of my grandmother, you get more bees with honey. And so I can't stress, as our young people, to be humble, to really, mentorship does, I remember when I was being mentored, I was the girl that was getting the coffee and, hanging up the coats and, look, let me just be on assignment. Can I just pass out the flyers, right? I was willing to be of service to the people that I wanted to mentor me. It wasn't just all about what they could do for me, but what I could do for them, how I could help their lives become better. And those were the ways that got Jack to the front of the line, in a lot of these conversations, because I was always raising my hand, taking on those stretch assignments, being part of different organizations that, again, could help my mentor's life even, shine. And then at the same time, of course, it benefited me as well.
Yeah.
I would say three things: the mic, mentorship, initiative, and community, right? Mentorship is huge, what Jack just talked about. Like, mentors are people who have been where you want to go, and they can show you how to get there. And what I've seen, actually starting with millennials, is that a lot of young people listen to each other. And it's like you're passing bad advice to each other, and you're getting your information off the internet, or you're looking on YouTube or TikTok to be able to solve your challenges. When there's somebody in front of you that will assist you, successful people love to help other people, right? Which now comes into the initiative, which is what Jack talked about: being willing to go the extra mile, being willing to do the things that are outside of your job description, to not necessarily prove that you belong, but to prove that you're worthy of being a mentee. So the mentorship mentee relationship is are you someone that when I give you advice, you'll take that advice and immediately implement it? Or do I have to follow up with you to be like, did you read the book that I told you to read? So typically when a mentor wants to mentor you, they'll give you one small menial thing to do to see if you'll actually do it and how long it's going to take you to do it. So it's not just about finding a mentor, it's being a great mentee. And that typically comes with initiative and going the extra mile. And then the last thing is community. So there was a study in 2014 where it talked about how 85% of women want to aspire to the executive level. So 85% of college grads aspire to the 85% of the women college graduates aspire to the executive level, 35% of men. But after 2 years, it goes from 85% to 16%. Right? Men stay the same. And so our aspirations are knocked out of the park. And what we think is possible for us in the first 2 years of your career. So it's about having a mentor that's going to keep you aware of how great you are, but then also having a community, and not a community to complain, but a community to uplift and to teach, you how to be able to navigate your career, because it is a navigation that's going to be tough. And it was tough 20 years ago. It's still tough today, if not tougher. So it's like, who do I have that's going to keep me on the right path?
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. What do each or you each see as the biggest misconception about women in finance or leadership today?
I would say the big misconception that I see or that I've witnessed in my now 33 years is the fact that, we still are very much a small percentage of the overall ecosystem of financial advisors out there. And there's like this misconception, like that we don't want to be in this industry, but we do. We just, we actually do. I mean, Christy and I could tell you, just from the commitments that we have from the people that joined our wealth management accelerator, it's not that, people don't want to be part of this industry. People don't really know about this industry. Right. And when if you Google financial advisor and you look at the images, you don't see women. And that's the thing. We have to change the perception of what this industry looks like to women, to young people, because the reality is many women are the stewards of their wealth for their families, right? They're the ones paying the bills. They're the ones when, people always want to look at the guy in the meeting, but it's really the woman who is making that decision in the background for what's happening with that portfolio. So I think that there's a lot of misconceptions. I manage teams very regularly. And when we would lose the deal, when the person would only speak to the man, when really it was the woman who was running the finances. Right. So I would be very, so there's that part, right? So there's the, women wanting to be in this industry, but again, just having that exposure and knowing that, even though we watch these movies, Wolf on Wall Street and all the different movies that show all the men, that there's a huge appetite for women, because by 2030, women will control the wealth in the United States of America. Okay, let me repeat that. By 2030, that's 4 years from now, the majority of the wealth will be in the hands of a woman. Okay. Women outlive their husbands. Women are, again, taking on more executive roles within their families, as well as, of course, within organizations. So again, I would just say some of those misconceptions that come with the man versus the woman, I think it's just very smart and wise for people to start including women into those conversations, whether it's financial advice or whether it's including them for opportunities to be executives in these roles.
I love talking to the young people. This is great. Thank you so much. So a misconception that they have about women, and they're still printing it today, is that women are leaving their roles because to take care of families. Like they talked about this 20 years ago. They're talking about it today. Women are leaving their roles at a certain point is because they're tired. So as we're these hard charging women and we want to get out and we want to make things happen in our 20s. And it's like, are you carrying those same habits into your 30s as you're starting to get married and buy these things and ascend in leadership and then start to have kids? Our
Mhm.
habits never change from our 20s into our 30s and our 40s. And by that point, women are burning out. So there's a
Right.
lot of women who get to the senior level and get to the executive level because we'll fight, we'll claw, we'll do the dance, we'll do whatever it takes to get
Right.
to the senior level. And then we collapse at the senior level because we never stop to take care of ourselves along the way. So have any
Mhm.
advice for the, for the young women who are listening right now, it's balance yourself, right? This is a
Mhm.
marathon and not a sprint. And you can't sprint for 15 years. And when you get to the senior
Right.
level, it's like you're too tired to keep it. And this is why a lot of women are exiting, is not to take care of their families, is because they're tired and they never stopped along the way to be able to redefine what does
Yeah.
success mean to me today. So
Mhm.
redefine what success means to you and now include, how do I now adjust my habits to include now that I have a spouse? And how do I now adjust my habits to now include that I have children? And we have to bring those things into play,
Yeah.
and not just run on that old data of what success means when we're 20.
Yeah. 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 100% agree. Um, okay, last question. If you could give your 21-year-old self one sentence of career advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I change it all the time. But I'm going to say this because I'm talking to my young people. All right. So if I were giving my 21-year-old self, I did do this. I'm going to just double down, save, save,
Mm,
save, invest, invest, invest. The
mhm.
earlier you start, the earlier you are. I was able to retire at 42 years old from corporate
Oh,
America because I was
congratulations.
because I was investing at 21.
Yeah.
And so I encourage you, if you all, I don't care if you make $500 a month, take
Mhm.
10%, 20%, put it in
Mhm.
the capital markets. Let your money always work harder for you so that
Mhm.
you don't have to work so hard for it. So I can't stress enough to my
Yes.
young people, don't go and spend all your money. At
Mhm.
21, I was investing, I was buying houses, I was looking at gold. At
Mhm.
21. And
Right.
so this is what I would stress to my young professionals, my young
Yeah.
people. You'll think retirement is way out, and then you become
Uh-huh.
old like me and Christy.
No.
and, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm 50 years old. What do you mean retirement is like around? I was just looking at my social security statement yesterday, and I
Yeah.
have over 35 years that I've paid into the social security system. And
Mhm.
so that's where I just would really encourage my young people, don't take your time for granted. The
Mhm.
sooner you get started putting money in your Roth IRA, putting money in your 401k,
Yeah.
saving for that first house. Don't let the news scare you. Young people are still buying houses. They are
Yeah.
still investing. And so that's what I would absolutely recommend and double down on for my young people.
Yeah. Thank you.
I like that Jack and I have completely different takes on what life is, which is why this interview is so
Yes.
great. But for me, it would be fight less, flow more, right? Like we come into a career and we fight to prove that we belong there, and then
Mhm.
we fight to prove that we have value, and then we fight and we get these degrees and we fight, 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 and then you like never stop fighting, and so we lose the ability to be able to value ourselves because we're fighting. So fight less to prove that you have value and know that you
Mhm.
belong in the room. And once you start to flow in your energy and become aware of and understand how great you are, you won't have to fight as much, right?
Right.
And when you get into the room, you actually belong in the room. So a lot of people suffer with the imposter syndrome, and I'm like, why? How did you get in the room and then become an imposter, right?
Right.
Why did
Right.
you fight and do the things and check all the boxes, and like we fight nonstop? Women do it. Like I've coached 300 women around the world.
Mhm.
um it's like understanding who you are, why you're here, and that you have value. You don't have to fight to do that. Just understand and believe it in yourself, because people see who you see. So if you get in the room and don't believe that you
Yeah.
belong there, they agree that you don't belong there. So just
Right.
fight less, flow more.
Thank you so much, both of you, for your time. This was very insightful. I really did enjoy this conversation.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The WMA podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSUWMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSUWMA or Spartan Journal podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.